Good evening and welcome to the LaSalle Public Library's virtual programming. This is Donna from the library. And before we begin tonight, let's have just two quick announcements. Next Tuesday at the same time, 6 p.m. on December 21st, don't miss the New York City Ballet's presentation of George Balanchine's The Nutcracker. Please make time for this program. It is undoubtedly a beautiful performance with great choreography, costumes, and one-of-a-kind visual effects. This program was made possible through a grant that we received from Lincoln Center. We received public performance rights for this program, and we hope that you will be able to enjoy it with us. So once again, next Tuesday, 6 o'clock, the performance is an hour and 40 minutes, so kids will be out of school, time to sit down and enjoy this great performance with a bowl of popcorn or something like that, and feast your eyes on a great Christmas and holiday production. Also, I don't want to not tell you about our January program for National Soup Month. Natalie, who will be our presenter tonight, will also be presenting a program on January 18th at 6 p.m. And it is called Quick and Slow, Soups and Stews for the Instapot, the slow cooker, and stovetop. So whether you have one of those things or all three, it's time to tune in January to warm up your winter days. So we hope you'll mark your calendar for both of those programs. And with that, I want to welcome Natalie Martin tonight with her program, Upcycled Christmas with Natalie Martin. So Natalie, are you there? I'm going to stop sharing my screen and bring you on.
I am here. Welcome, everybody. We got a good crowd of you tonight. And so thank you for joining me. I hope everyone is fully embracing their holiday season. We are deep into it here. I think if you've been to my programs before, you know I have two small kids. We are all about holiday festivities. We have done a Christmas train so far. We have baked and decorated chocolate or cookie cutouts, both gingerbread and plain. So we are watching movies and holiday media pretty much every day, every night, holiday songs all day long. So thank you for joining me. The reason Donna and I talked about this program and the reason we went with Upcycled Christmas is if you are kind of out there doing the shopping, you'll notice there have been some supply chain issues this year. There's even if you're trying to buy new craft supplies, you might not be able to find them. So everything besides these pens and this glue I had in my house already. And so I hope that some of you will be able to do that, and you might have those pens and that glue or something similar. So we'll talk about some modifications. If you don't have the same stuff, you can definitely drop some questions in the chat or feel free to ask them. But we're going to focus on maybe some things that you might have a surplus of in your house and that you might want to utilize or get rid of, or you're not sure you haven't gotten rid of it because you think you might be able to use it. And so I want to show you some ways that you can use them. And we're going to focus on 3 different materials. We're going to focus on denim because a lot of us have those jeans. I don't know if any one of you guys have those thigh holes where the thighs touch. I have those. Or my husband has the knees wear out because he does a lot of working on cars or kneeling or working on things. And so his knees wear out of his jeans. But so those they're not even good for Goodwill anymore. Nobody's going to want them. So what do we do with them? So we're going to do some work with how we can utilize the denim from those jeans. We're going to use some newspaper. And we're going to use some cardboard. And then if anyone's ordering as much from Amazon or wherever, maybe not Amazon, and more of I get a little everywhere, but we have a lot of cardboard. We're getting a lot of things online. Almost all of it is going to be coming in boxes. So we're going to utilize some of that tonight. So we'll jump right in. We're going to start with denim. Grab my jeans here. I'll talk a little bit about the materials or the tools that I use to make all of this stuff, but most of it was pretty basic. X-Acto knife, scissors, regular Mod Podge. You can use a glue gun. You can use basically whatever glue you have tonight. But for this project, our first project, we're going to be making some ornaments. And a lot of times when you see stuff that's made, you may be worried about that your denim item looks homemade. And in some cases, I think that's totally fine, right? But if you want something that looks, maybe it's someone's going to want to hang in their house or display in their house. So you'll want to display in your house. So I was kind of looking for some projects that did that. And I made a sample up, and I think it kind of looks like the picture, which I mean, it's always what we're going for, right? And so you can absolutely buy for these, you can buy some blank ornaments. These ones I had some old school. My mom had some just plain red and some plain gold, and we don't really put them up in our house anymore. So my daughter has made some stuff with them, but I thought that they would be great for something like this, or we could dress them up a little bit. You could do a mix of fabrics if you wanted to. I just decided I wanted to utilize some of the extra denim. And this is a pair of actually stretch jeans, but they're a nice color. And so I was kind of excited about that. And I wanted to show you, shucks, I'll have to get that in a second. I wanted to show you the parts that I used. So for this, you can see I made these tiny, I'm going to make myself big. There we go. I made these strips, you can see, and in the picture, they're a little thinner. So I made a bunch of different sizes, and you can do this a couple of different ways. I always like to start, I like to keep my seams intact because this is the strongest part of all of the denim. So if you were going to make something else, maybe like you can make trivets, you can make rag rugs, you can make all sorts of stuff with jeans. But I like to keep the seams as intact as possible and use those for other things. So I don't want to just cut those as part of the strip. They're also thicker than the rest of the jean. So if I'm going to be doing things like wrapping them around this ornament, I don't want that really thick part of the fabric to be mixed in there. So I want to make sure I'm keeping that intact. But look, I've got a nice edge. Then I'm going to go down the leg seam. And sometimes if you get lucky, now I haven't tried this on stretch jeans, but you can start your cut and then you can just rip it, and it rips really fast. It may not be a perfectly straight line, but for this project especially, you don't need one. So it's not really a big deal, but it goes really fast and you can get all the way up to the top of the seam pretty quickly. So this one took me all the way up to the top of the pocket. And my whole goal for this is to cut strips of various widths. So I'm just going to go across the bottom of the pocket. Donna made a joke when we signed on tonight that this must be Santa's workshop. And I was like, weirdly, it's the same place I do the cooking. So it's also Santa's kitchen. Same place I do the cooking programs. So you can see my hot plate is just waiting here to be used at a later date. So yeah, the ripping, it tends to be a lot faster. If you have a rotary cutter, like an Olfa or Fisker's rotary cutter, and that's going to be like a blade, and it has a round, sharp blade, and you can kind of use a cutting mat and run that along. And that works great for this, but I didn't want to I have a cutting table, and I didn't want to pull it all out and have to get it all set up. So I just did this the easy way, or not the easy way, but the low maintenance way. So now I'm down to the bottom of my seam and I can just cut it off. If you don't want strings like this, you'll want to make sure that you just cut that part off. Otherwise you can, if you do like those strings, that's a fun detail. You could maybe use that as one of your parts of your thing. But you can see I've got like these nice straight lines. I can cut a whole chunk. And then you can just cut down in strips. This is where that rotary cutter comes in handy. You can just lay it down flat and run those strips down. But just like we did with our edges, we're going to just cut a pretty wide cut here. And then you can pull big, long strips. So I've got these nice strips, and I can use those to wrap around my ornament. When you're looking at these ornaments, I'm sure a lot of you do know this, either because you found out by accident or you knew ahead of time. I found out by accident, but these whole top parts come off. So we're going to take that off for right now, because we're going to take some Mod Podge. And if you've never used Mod Podge, I've been saying Mod Podge for as long as I've known that this existed. I'm going to use Mod Podge, and I like this because you can paint it on. It takes a little while to dry, so you don't have to rush and hurry through your project. You have a little time. It comes in a bunch of different finishes. It comes in like gloss finish, so you could do that and then paint all over the outside. When I did this one, I was able to paint over the tops of some of these, and you can't even see it. It dried nice and clear. So that's what's really nice about Mod Podge is that it really dries nice and clear. You can paint it on and work with it. I'm just using one of these foam brushes. You can use whatever brush you have. I just doweled out a little dish full of it. Let's try and see if I can do this for you here. And you're just going to paint all around. Is my light a little too bright? Looks like it might be too bright, but you can just paint all around outside of your ornament. It's going to get on your hands. Just go with it. You know, if you're worried about your hands, you can wear gloves, or this stuff washes off really easily. So it's not gonna, hurt your hands at all. That's the other nice thing about Mod Podge. Mod Podge, I'm gonna say it like that for the rest of the show, is that it's just really kind of a nice all-purpose glue. You can use it for things like paper mache and stuff like that as well. So it's just kind of good. So I've got it completely covered. Oops. Now I have it completely covered. Set my glue off to the side, and I'll take that strip that I just made, and I like to start at the top just so that I kind of have a good baseline, and I put my finger over it. I'm just going to start wrapping it like a yarn ball. And you can push it down as you go. Like I said, don't worry if you get the glue on the outside because it dries clear. If you're worried about things like shininess, like I said, you can get the gloss version of Mod Podge. And we're just going to kind of start wrapping so that we can cover as much as possible. Like I said before, I had a little maybe thicker strips than they have in the display picture. And that's okay. It just might, it might not lay as flat onto the thing. So you can see I got onto the ornament. So I got all the way around, and I'm going to go back through with another. And I purposely used a different color. I have some plain, just regular denim, light blue denim that I had from a pair of my husband's jeans that I cut up. If you wanted to go through and paint over some of these, because I'd like to go in a different direction now. So I'm going to add some more glue. And again, start kind of up at the top. This one I'm going to go this way. So we get a couple of different patterns. I'm going to use the glue that I have, and I did just paint over. And we're just going to kind of wrap it. And I don't necessarily need you guys to have to watch the whole of it, just so that we're not super bored here, but we're moving kind of along pretty fast. And we add glue as we go to make sure it's sticking. You can always go back, which is again the beauty of Mod Podge. You can always go back and kind of paint over the top to get it to hold down. And you can see it's kind of coming together. Now, because I do have this like gold ornament, the other one I did was red, and it had some kind of red peeking through, which is kind of fun. I kind of like that about this, is that, you can kind of see some of the ornament below it. And add one more of these, and we'll see how it looks. Finish up, get some more. Uh-oh, I dropped it. Here, we'll add this one in this direction and kind of wrap it around here. Denim. So denim is made of cotton, but a lot of denim is going to have like some stretch to it. For this project, stretch is probably really nice because it is going to help the jeans lay a little more flat, which I think is kind of cool for this because it'll kind of mold to the circle of the ornament. And this one you can see has a little bit of fringiness to it, this edge, which I kind of like. So I'm almost done here. I'm probably not going to finish it just so that we can move on with other projects tonight, but you can see it's got like 3 or 4 different colors. You can go through and wrap up the final to cover up that last one. And you can just kind of keep going if you wanted to make sure that everything is covered. I do kind of like the gold that's peeking through, so I might leave this one. But if I was maybe going to go through and do it, I do have this big streak of the darker denim that got left on there. So I would probably go back and wrap one in this direction to kind of cover that up so that it just looks a little more finished. But yeah, you can see my gold peeking through. I think it looks pretty neat. So that's kind of, this is kind of a cool thing that you can do with leftover denim. And then once you're all done with however you want it, you can just put your ornament, whatever this is called, hanger guy. I'm sure that's the technical term. You can put this back on and it just makes it look like really finished and like you did this on purpose. You know what I mean? You've got a nice little ornament. You can do like a whole themed tree, which would be kind of fun with some denim ornaments on it. You could probably do this with just about any shape. In fact, we're going to be doing a project with cardboard. We might let's try to wrap some with denim later. That'd be pretty cool. So that's our first project. Now the second project I haven't done a sample for. So we're going to just go with it and learn all of it about it together, which is going to be maybe an adventure. I'm not sure. So the next project is again another denim project, and we're going to be making denim trees. Now, if you wanted to do like a styrofoam mold for this, you know, they have those like styrofoam like a styrofoam cone. You can definitely do that. You can see they've used a couple different colors of denim, and then they have these little beads mixed in here and these big beads. Actually, it looks like these beads might be part of the denim, which is kind of fun, like almost like a bedazzled one. Now, I did want this program to be kind of all about things that I could find in my house. So what I'm using to make my tree is going to be this play cone. That's my kids, that all the other ones broke or something happened to them. So we're not really using them anymore. So I'm going to use it for this project. And it's going to be very kind of similar to that other project. I'm going to spread my Podge onto it. But instead of just only using denim, I found it's a part of an old dress, and I had cut up the skirt and used this buffalo plaid for some Christmas stockings. I made like a crazy quilt Christmas stocking for me and my husband when we first got married and didn't have our own stockings. So I used old red corduroy jacket and this dress, and I think some like traditional Christmas like flannels or something like that. But this was still left over. I found it in my rag bag. So I cut off some strips of this, and I wanted to kind of incorporate them as I went along. So what I'm going to do, so we talked about how to cut up denim. Where did my jeans go? Here they are. They got pushed underneath. So for this project, we're going to use a different part of the denim. You can see in the picture, let me switch back to it here. I wish I could make the screen smaller. I want that to be a little small picture, but I'm not smart enough to figure that out. So you can see in this picture, this is just a little bit different of a texture than the plain stuff. You can see the stitching. And so for that, I'm using, this is just an example of the bottom cuff, but I basically went through on a couple different pairs of jeans and I cut off all of the cuffs and all of the center seams. Now mine don't have contrast stitching, which is, you know, well, they kind of do. I'll show it to you in a second, but these don't have contrast stitching, but they have that kind of waviness to them. They have a little bit more texture. So that's why we want that for this. We want this to have a little bit more of a 3D effect. We don't want it to lay flat. So we want it to have a little bit more hold to it. So this is my spare one. When I went through and cut it, I did the same exact thing that I did on the last one, except I went on the outside of the seam and then I ripped it all the way down. And I did that for all the seams. And then I went through and with the scissors, just cut out all along the edges of these top ones because I saved all of those edges. So not obviously on this pair, but on a couple other pairs of my husband's. Ooh. And I went through and pulled those off. Now you can see I've got like some ratty edges, and that's not a big deal. Don't worry about them being perfect. You're going to be gluing them overlapping each other, so you can just use that as the part that goes underneath the next row. And anything that you wanted to go through and you're like, no, I really don't like that edge, just go through with the scissors and just clean it right up. It's no big deal. But what I'm going to start with first is I do have this cone, and I'm going to just go through and cover it first with Mod Podge. And it's this one you may have to go through. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just do the bottom because we're going to start there first, because I have a feeling we're not going to get, it's going to start to dry out. So I don't want to just keep wasting Mod Podge. So I'm going to do the bottom portion first. And like I had said, with the pieces of dress that I had saved, I am going to start with my jean seams. Figure out the best way to show this to you. I just hold it up. I only have so many hands. I'm not an octopus. So I'm going to start with my jean seams. We can talk about what to do at the end with this cone base, but here's my jean seams, and I'm going to start just pushing it on. Now it might not hold on just because it's thicker. It might not hold as much. And if that's the case, I do have a glue gun primed and ready to roll. So we're going to just start to curl it up the tree here. In the example, they did use styrofoam mold, and that's great. And you could always just go through and pin it to get it started. Get in here with some extra. So you could pin the fabric to get it started and hold it onto the glue. So I've got my first layer of denim. We've got these extras. We can go through and glue those down at the end. So then I'm going to take my next round, which I wanted to add on some of this red buffalo plaid. So we're going to add our next row of glue. Usually I like to have a prepared sample, but I only had one cone. So I was like, we're just going to do it live and just see what's happening. So as you know, like we did with our acorn squash acorns, sometimes things don't work out. And that's okay. But then you know what you have to do different to make it work out in the future. So I'm going to add this next row of my buffalo plaid. And you can continue to kind of work your way up and just slightly overlap your layers. In the example, I do believe that they went through and made sure that all of their layers are the exact same width. I love y'all. I wasn't going to do that today. I just am not that much of an attention to detail person, but it also doesn't bother me if they're not equal. I know that sometimes folks care a little bit more about if things are like a little bit more equal or symmetrical. That's just not my brand, and that is okay. But if it is your brand, you can go through when you're doing your seams and you can just kind of trim them to make sure that they're all. So I want this to only be peeking out with buffalo plaid. So I'm going to put a little Mod Podge, gee, mini Christmas. I'm never going to get it right now. Thinking too much about it. Over the top. And I'm going to lay my next row just so that it's peeking out. And like I had said, if we need to get to the point where we need to use our glue gun, we might have to do that because this is just a different kind of material that we're gluing onto. Scooch it down. Oh no. There we go. Losing all my So yeah, you can start to wrap this into there. I'm just going to do my glue gun from now on, just because I think it'll be easier for us to see. And as we go through, if it's looking maybe a little more rough around the edges, we'll go through, and that's kind of what those extra finishing touches with some beads and stuff like that are for. I have some like stuff that looks like a garland. I'm not really even sure where it came from, but I just happened to find it in my house, which I feel like when you have kids, sometimes things just show up, and you're not sure where they came from, but hey, you're happy they're here. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to add a little row of, where'd all my glue sticks go? Where in here there's glue sticks? Ah, they're right here next to me. I'm going to go through and add just a little row of, you can kind of see it. Sorry, everybody. You've been wondering blindly what I'm up to. Just adding a little extra so that'll peek out. And you can always go back over with another layer over the top of this if you wanted to, like, say it's not as intentional as you would like it to look. You can just wrap another layer of denim on top of it. So I just got to a part, you can see it's like obviously where two seams met together, and that is it's going to be too thick for what I want. So I'm going to go through and cut that out, get rid of it. Not sure if I can use that later. We'll find out. So this is what we talked about earlier. It's got kind of a fringe. I want that to be kind of pointed down. So I want it to kind of almost be like its own part of the decoration. So I'm going to have it overlap with what I've got going on. Glue it periodically along the way. Should have had Christmas tunes playing in the background, everybody. That would have been fun. The nice thing about hot glue is because it is hot and you're using it on plastic, it will kind of melt into place. So I'm still working with the same piece, but I want to add another little strip. I'm going to go up one more row of my buffalo plaid, but it's still, so we're just going to glue it in and then keep rolling up. Because as we get to the top, I'm going to have, I'm going to be using one seam is going to last a lot longer. So I'm going to go through, and I've got my little buffalo plaid. I'm going to glue it on. Finally figured out how to do this and face it towards you guys. So I'm going to glue it on. I'll actually go all the way around here. Has anyone ever burned their hand on a glue gun? I'm pretty sure that if I do have fingertips left, there's not a lot of them, not because of this program, just because of life in general. Because I have done lots of glue gunning over the years. So look, you can kind of see it peeking out. And then I will wrap it around. Pull it in. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and cut that guy right off. If you're ever wondering, the scissors, I've cut too many jeans with them tonight. They're like, no, thank you. If you're ever wondering how to, I'm not being very careful with my glue gun tonight, but if you're ever wondering how you can stop all those glue gun strings from getting onto your projects, I will show that to you in just a second here. Okay, I've got another nice fringy guy. And you look, I'm getting up to the top, so I'm not going to need a lot of this. So we'll cut it off once it gets there. I'm going to turn this around. I'm going to start, this is a little lower back down here. Get another piece of buffalo plaid ready. So when you are glue gunning, you will glue gun. And then right when you're stopping, you give it a little turn. And if you dollop it, that wasn't a very good example. I still got a big string. So usually, maybe it's because it's plastic. You dollop, and then you give it a little turn, right? And it's, well, usually sometimes it works. And that usually helps to keep that string from making that big long trail all along your whole project. Okay, I've got this lower area here. So I'm going to add my buffalo plaid to that. I only need a little tiny piece. When we're looking at the bottom and how to do something with that area to kind of fill it in so it doesn't look like just an orange cone, there's a couple different ideas that I had. I was thinking that we could add some of that fake snow so it looks like snow. You could just go through and cut it off. That's perfectly fine. You could just cut it off with, like, I don't know, packing knife or something like that. You could add some sticks around the bottom. A lot of you guys might not be using a plastic parking cone, and that is valid. So if you aren't using a plastic parking cone, it'll be a lot easier for you. Other things that I found, I had an orange plastic cone that was for, like, to make a flashlight into like a parking, like how to direct people for traffic. There's all sorts of weird stuff in my house, folks. And a bunch of different other stuff. So, but I ended up going with this one because I thought that it would be the most functional. And we're almost to the top. So then once you get to your top, I'm going to take, I have just a couple of spaces I need to fill in there. You can go through and glue down all of your rough edges. If you were, again, wanting it to be really, really professional and you didn't want all those strings, you just make sure you cut them off before you start. But if there's any parts that are really stringy, you can just go through and trim those. If you can see any of your base sticking through, you can go through and add more fabric. I have a couple of pieces of that buffalo plaid left. I also have a couple of pieces of yeah, so you can see like some here. You could take a Sharpie and color it dark so that it just doesn't look like anything, but I'm going to go through and take a piece of this strip. That's also the great spot to use that if you had those beads. I didn't have any beads when I walked around, which is weird, but I did have, I'll show you in a second, what looks like garland. Okay. I think this is maybe not looking as neat as the picture, and that's okay. You know who's gonna love it? My 8-year-old daughter. So you can go through, and we want to kind of just do our finishing up now. So we go through and we pick our stuff, but every tree needs a tree topper. I found some really cool like tinsely stuff. So I made like kind of a cool little amorphous knot, and you could kind of glue to the top like a little snowball. You can make a little star. I have these cardboard stars that we'll make earlier. You can make a small one of those and glue it to the top. They had what looks like 2 snowflakes in a thing, but with this cool stuff, it's like tinsely looking. So I thought you could go through and make little swags of tinsel around it. You could just do it in one little line and drag it around during certain parts of it. If your tree has a front and a back, like if I was going to pick, I would say like maybe that probably looks like the nicest angle. So that might be my front. So then on the back, you could have where all your seams meet and things like that. So if we look, we wanted to kind of look at it from the side. Look, you can't even really see my base. So that's kind of nice. So yeah, you could put a piece of fabric around the base or something like that, and then do your little tree topper on top. So that's another idea to do with denim. If you have a lot of denim that, I don't have a whole picture of this, but if you do have a lot of denim and specifically denim seams, sorry, all of mine fell on the ground. One thing that they do really well is you can curl them up. I'm trying to find a good example of a seam that doesn't have any extra. Oh, here, this is how you tear seams, any extra stuff. But if you just start to roll it, and you can glue gun it along the way as you roll it, this is a way to make like a really cheap trivet that either you could give as a gift or you can keep for yourself. Like if you need trivets to put hot pans on or hot dishes, as you roll it up, you can see it starts to spiral. You're just going to glue it as you go. Whoa, that was close. And you can get bigger and bigger and bigger. And as you get to the end, you just glue another seam on there. But look, you can kind of get the picture of where I'm headed. But you can do it with the strings, without the strings. This is an example of without the strings. And you would just continue to glue your seams along the way. And you can use fabric paint. You can paint it. Like it would be cool if you painted it with like a metallic fabric paint, stuff like that. You could paint the jeans before you started to, or dye them before you started to do it. And you can have whatever color you wanted. But that's just another example of something you can do with denim. If you did cut them into the big long strips like this, lots of folks make rug rugs out of strips of denim. You do want them to be very similar sizes. So if you are going to make like a rag rug, you want to make sure that the sizes are kind of similar. But basically you are going to weave strips of fabric together or twist them together. And a lot of times what they do is you tie them in along like a knot, and you tie them and tie them and tie them, and then you make these long strings, and then you can weave these long strings together to make like really cool like rag rugs that you would put in front of your sink or your entryway, or you can make little dog beds with them. So there's tons of really cool stuff to do with denim. We just did 2 examples of tonight. I think maybe if we were going to vote on it, the ornament might have been a little more successful, but no judgment here. And maybe your ornaments will be, or your Christmas trees will be much nicer than mine. Okay. So that's what I had to share for you for denim, but we're going to move on to cardboard. Nope. No, we're not. We're moving on to newspaper. Okay, Natalie. And so what I wanted to make with newspaper, and I've made these before, but these are Christmas trees, and they're very simple. They're very cheap. They just take a little bit of time, but even that, it's not overly complicated or hard. And you can see it starts with just squares of newspaper. I made mine fairly large, but you can make them whatever size you want. I would say that the starting size for those was probably 4 by 4 inches. Mine starting size was actually a half sheet of newspaper, or a quarter sheet of newspaper. And I'll kind of show you the process as we go along here. But basically you need a base. Well, it was a false alarm. I want to talk about this a little bit. So you can see we've got a stick here going up the middle. You can use just about anything. Some folks use old knitting needles. Some folks use, like have you ever seen like a recipe spike from like when they used to put like the receipts from when an order was done at a restaurant? It'd be like a spike that they would put the finished receipts down on. What I used was a skewer. If you needed something like a knitting needle or base, you could use modeling clay. This is just my child's Play-Doh. This is a color that it's a small thing that's almost hardened anyway, kind of dried out, that they're not using anymore. I pushed the skewer right down in it, but you won't really see the base when you're doing it anyway, especially the way that I'm going to do it. So you can see in the picture, all of their newspaper kind of sits flat out. I'd like mine to be more like the silhouette of almost like a white pine tree. So we're going to do ours a little bit different. And so what it basically is made of is squares of newspaper that they have cut and folded, and then just put down onto the receipt spike or whatever it is, to kind of layer and layer and layer to make this tree. So we'll jump right in there. So what I did ahead of time was I went through and cut all of my newspaper into specific sizes, from this size all the way down, where's my small size, to this size. And you can go as big or as small as you want. I chose this because I wanted it to cover my base, and I wanted it to, you know, just, I don't know, I just liked it. And also, I just used a paper cutter, like one of those ones with the big arms. You could do it with plain scissors. It's all good. The next step is going to be to fold it into fours. And this, the reason you're doing this, so back in the day, the first time I did this, I signed up as a work project with a friend. We were going to make all these centerpieces for our work Christmas party because they wanted to save some money. And that was a way we could cut corners because we had tons of newspapers. So hot glue stuck all over my hands. So we were like, we could do this, no problem. But we didn't like read the instructions very quickly, very easily. We just like looked at the picture and went ahead. The thing about the folding that you want to do is that helps give the tree body. The other thing that I did is I poked holes in the middle because we're using this skewer. It's a little bit more delicate and I didn't want it to fall over. So you can see kind of as it like lays down, it's going to kind of have a little movement. And I'm going to just start layering these papers down. I'm going to kind of do a quarter turn. And that fold is going to help them not lay flat on top of each other. I'm going to take a couple pieces of paper at a time as I fold them. And I'm like kind of when you make a fortune teller, you know how you make a fortune teller when you're a kid. We're making sure that these folds kind of give it nice body. And we want it to turn so that we get this nice full tree shape. I'll show you guys every few things. This is just like the new, I think it's a Wall Street Journal or Chicago Tribune or something like that. But if you needed to use like a News Tribune, which maybe doesn't have as many pages, you might just want to make sure that you get a couple before you get started on this project, because it will take a surprising amount of paper. But that's nice because then it uses a lot. The reason that I wanted to do bigger ones is, like I said, I wanted to have like a little bigger of a silhouette. I wanted it to kind of fall, like if you imagine like a white pine tree where the branches kind of start to cascade down. If you wanted more like spruce classic Christmas tree silhouette, you might want to go with something with a little bit smaller. Monitor. Nope, whatever, this is camera back a little bit. All right, so here we go. We've already started. You can kind of see it's building up. We can kind of turn it if our papers start to, because they're going to want to kind of start to fall together. Right now, it just looks like newspaper, but just you wait. So our paper is going to start to get smaller and smaller. I cut them. I started to decrease in size by like 1 inch to 2 inches at a time, just because you're going to want smaller pieces of paper. If you just use the same sized paper as you go along, it's not going to, it's just going to kind of be like a flat cylinder around. It's not going to cascade up into that cone shape that you want with your Christmas tree. The other thing that we're going to do at the end, and this is optional, I don't know if we're going to do it on camera depending on how long this takes, but you can either, if you like aerosol glitter, I'm not big on aerosols, but if you wanted to use like a spray glitter or a spray adhesive and then like drop some glitter. What I was going to do to add a little shine to mine was I was going to just brush on some Mod Podge, because why use another glue when you have this glue? So I was going to brush on some Mod Podge and do some just onto like the edges of the where's my hole? Oh, there it is. Onto the edges of the tree, and then I was going to just like sprinkle a little bit of glitter. The other thing you can do is take your hot glue gun and you can make some dots of hot glue and then sprinkle glitter onto that hot glue, and it'll look like little ornaments. Again, this one also has a topper, so you could do a couple of different things. You can use like a star-shaped punch. You could do a little tiny angel at the top if that's your thing. I could make some cardboard stars because we're going to be making some cardboard stars after this. Look, it's getting a little bigger. Oops, we're starting to get a little going in the same direction. So you can go through and kind of turn it. That's the nice thing about this. Is pretty easy to fix if you start to get a little wonky. I feel like I'm running out of space. Like I have too much paper. Hope you guys are interested in me talking, because we still have a little bit of ways to go on this. But when you are folding your paper for this, you're going to probably want some fairly sharp folds, just because that's going to help it give it that shape. And if you get it on the tree, and it's like really not sitting up, you can kind of crunch it up into the air and that'll help it do it a little bit more. All right, I'm going to start to go down in size, and you can see I'm in like I don't know, this is probably just over, this is probably 7 inches. I'm going to put a whole chunk on, see if I can do that. And then I'm going to turn them.
Natalie, it's Donna.
Yes.
I'm
Hi,
going to
Donna.
ask you to help clarify while you're doing this.
Yes,
So
please.
just to be sure we understand, each section that you put on is a double layer thickness, correct?
Correct. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it decreases in size from the former layer by 1 inch or so.
Correct. Yeah, you want it to be pretty gradual. So like if you have the big pieces like I have, I think 1 inch is probably good. If you have little pieces, you're starting small, like say your biggest size is 4 inches, you're probably going to only want to decrease it by 1/2 inch. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just because you want it to be pretty gradual looking.
And then, and as you put these on the skewer, each layer, you rotate them a 1/4 turn. Is that correct?
Yeah, just about. Yeah, exactly. You don't want your needles to be lining up exactly right, because otherwise you'll just have it'll look like a bunch of squares stacked on top of each other. But what we're going to get as we get up higher, and I think I want you to believe in me, pals, this isn't going to look like a pile of newspaper. At least I hope not. So, and you can kind of see as I'm going through, I can kind of stretch it out to make it taller. It will settle just because it's gravity. So as you're like, if it's out for the season or as a centerpiece, you can kind of go through and fluff it just like you would with a regular Christmas tree. All right, these are going to be my last ones of these size, and then I'm going to go through and get a little smaller. We're getting close, folks. There we go. The other option is if this is a lot more work. So if you did want to do this project and you were, but you were like, I don't want it to be newspapery at all, you can go through and paint the layers of newspaper just like we did with our Thanksgiving centerpieces. You can go through and you can paint them with just regular acrylic paint on one side. And that would give the tops a different look to them, which would be kind of nice. But again, it's all about, kind of how much work you want to put into it. It would be a lot of work to go through and paint a lot of the layers all at once. Oh no, where's my free? I can see it. The reason I wanted to do that pre-punched hole in there was for timing, but also so that they went on easier and we weren't bending our skewer. We weren't come on here, ripping our paper. There we go. All right, we are done with this next layer, and then we will go through and do our smaller layers. We're getting up towards the top. Let's see if I can get a good, oops, we're getting our pine tree silhouette. Still looking, we got they all settled themselves into the same aspect. We'll go through at the end. So we're getting our pine tree silhouette where it's cascading down. It's coming together. Here's our next size. The sharper, yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I wonder if you were, because you're making quite a large piece here, and there's quite a bit of weight on it. I'm wondering if in between layers, it might be helpful to keep the poof going by putting a small piece in between each of the
Like a little tiny
intentional
guy.
layers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can give it a shot. We absolutely, like a little, to give it some weight that it doesn't,
Just to give it a little bounce.
and you wouldn't see it from the edges, which is nice.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I did start, we lost our point. I did start to add a couple more pieces in here so that we can kind of move it along faster. We don't lose all of you. I know we're fighting against dinner time too. So as we're getting towards the top, and I will show you all how it finishes up by we are almost done. You can see I only have so much skewer left. And we have one more project after this. So stick with it, folks. We will get it. I lost the top of my skewer one of these times. It could only take so much, you know what I mean? Just like all of us. Got to take a break every now and then. Also, I think my Play-Doh is leaning. There we go. There we go. We're better. Another thing that you can use for a base, if like you don't have spare Play-Doh hanging around, I have used a styrofoam like half ball, like they sell those foam balls, and you just stick a piece of like a metal skewer or a wooden skewer up through that. And you can, that works pretty well. And then that kind of holds the base. The nice thing about having a 3-dimensional base and it not being just flat on the ground is that it allows those bottom layers to really lay like kind of like a tree would, where they're just kind of cascading downward. All right, I'm gonna add a couple more pieces here of smaller guys, and then we are ready to roll. And once you get to the top, it's not going to completely cover that whole tip of your spike. So that's what you want for your tree topper, whatever your preferred tree topper is. I'm going to go through and fluff my bases here, get them scooched around. All right. This is another fun thing to do with book pages. We've got some, you can actually go through and use spray paint. You could do some stripes of paint and things like that. I'm going to go through and fluff my, we need to turn. I will arrange these maybe off camera and we'll talk about our next project and then we'll pop back in and see how it figured out. But as you go through, you can fluff these out. Smaller, like I said, if you use the smaller sheets, that might work better for you because you can get a little bit more, like you can maybe get a little bit more fluff for it. When they are bigger like this, it is sometimes harder for them to stay upright. And just like Donna said, adding a little piece in between or even just a dab of glue on the stick might be the best option. But they are what our main problem here right now is that they're all lining up together. So they're all falling into the same order. And that's okay. We'll figure it out. But you can start to do it. You can do it with book pages. You can do it with, oops, my hand's in the way. You can do it with things, newspapers, but it cascades down. Oh, we know we lost our pants. Oh, well, there we go. And yeah, like I said, you can add a little glue to it and add it on there. So that's an idea for something to do with some leftover newspaper. Thought it was going to fall over. We have one more project to talk about, and that is these cardboard stars that I wanted to show everybody. They are very simple and very quick to put together. And they're a great use of cardboard, and they can be a great thing to do for gift tags. You can do them for actual ornaments. You can make little chains of them and do them around your house. But they are like a 3-ingredient treat here. We have cardboard. We have white gel pens. You could also use silver paint pens, silver Sharpie, silver colored pencils, whatever really you want to do. You could even use whiteout if you have whiteout hanging around your house. Here's an example of one I made today. And this is just a simple one. And really, what I just found, these were like inside of like a package that had cardstock in it, some are paper. Sometimes they put these backings into those packages to help make sure the paper is nice and stiff. But I love them because they're just nice flat canvases. They're not too big. They're not unwieldy to do. And so I just drew a basic star. Now I am not an artist. You can do it. I don't know if you can even see it. I drew it in silver so that it wasn't super obvious once I cut it out. But you can do it in black Sharpie if you wanted to, and then just cut, make sure that when you're cutting it, you don't see the outline, or just flip the outline to the back, whatever you wanted to do. I'm going to move my X-Acto knife here into the middle so you can see all of this. So hope everyone can see that okay. The denim strings all over me. So you're just basically with cardboard, you're gonna just go all the way through. You're gonna have to press kind of firm. I have a cutting mat underneath this. So this is an X-Acto knife that has a curved blade on it. I don't know if you can see it. It's nice and sharp. Trust me. That's why I'm wearing a Band-Aid. It's because I accidentally just leaned my hand against the blade. Please be safe when you're using X-Acto knives. You could also use just a packing knife or box cutter, whatever you have. You could use scissors as well. I just wanted to make sure that, like sometimes when you use scissors on cardboard, they make like the bent edges, and that's not what I wanted with this. I wanted to make sure that all my edges were nice and smooth. So this is my very abstract star shape. Now you can see when I lean across the back, it didn't go through. So then I have to go through and do round 2 and push it, like get down in there and push even harder. And just make sure that trace my lines that I've already made. And then I can start to go through and punch it out of the back. Sometimes you can see where the lines are on the back and just trace them from the back. But sometimes I have thought had known where they went through, and then I was really getting it wrong. And so I had double lines. So you want to make sure that if you're worried about neatness, you can make sure that you go through the front and just start to push. You'll see as soon as you get to the spots where you have not, my husband's going to be very proud of me if I make it through this without cutting myself. You can see the spots as soon as you start to push through that you haven't done it yet. Okay, so we've got our star all cut out. And you still want to be down here. Sorry, hope you're not getting car sick. So then you can go through and you can kind of like just go. The nice thing about white gel pen is it's pretty forgiving. But maybe I wanted to do like more of like a flower type shape. Now mine would probably be easier if I had made it nice and even. But I've got the gel pen. You don't need to push hard. And you can see as I pushed a little too hard right here, it started to put a little hole in there. So you just have to lightly go through and you just can just rest your pen right on it and make whatever design looks good to you. So then I'm going to go through and make flower petals. And these would make great gift tags that you could tie on red twine or just whatever kind of twine looks good to you. You can just punch a hole with your X-Acto blade in one of the star points and go to town. Like I said, you can do a little rustic tree garland. You can make some hanging decorations. You can decorate them like snowflakes. The one thing to remember about gel pens is it does take a second to dry. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your fingers away from the parts you've already done so that it allows itself to dry all the way. And then I'm going to go through and just outline. It kind of looks like a sea star, actually. Maybe it's a tropical Christmas. I'm going to just go through and outline your star shape. You can do an abstract thing with lots of dots on it. It's really kind of whatever you want. And then you can write once it's dry. So you get kind of that. Maybe we want to do a little I don't know, some dots in here. Really make it look nice and finished. Maybe I want to take this and finish it around here. But once that's dry, I'm going to turn mine into a gift tag. So I want to flip it over. And then you can do, you've got this other nice blank canvas. And if you have cardboard that's got a print on it, that's like from an Amazon box or from, wherever, maybe you only use the one side, or maybe you want to paint the other side with a solid color and then do the design on top of it. But I'm going to say to Donna, Merry Christmas from Natalie. And then you can do some nice, maybe some abstract stars on the back. And it's a nice homemade gift tag that you can tie right on to your gift. So I think they're fun. I think that they're really easy, and I think you could make them look even more professional than I did. Although I think even with my limited artistic skills, they still turned out cute. This one was just a simple kind of snowflake design, and I just thought it was just really just gives you that hig feeling. You know what I mean? Higa. It's just, I don't know. It just really looks fun. And if you did like a whole string of these together, I think they'd be really neat. If you wanted to give these projects to kids or grandkids, I would recommend maybe cutting out all the stars and then letting them to go to work with the gel pens. I think that that'd be really fun. And they could really go and do whatever they wanted. We also talked about making little tree toppers, but there was a couple of cool designs, and I'll do some really quick, since I think we have a couple more minutes, but one really cool design that you can do is just to do these clustered dots. And then as you get farther up, just start spacing them out more. It just looks kind of like snow. And I just really like that design as well. I think there was one in the example that looked like that. So it's kind of cool, and you can kind of make them a little bit more compound towards the bottom and then let them spread out, and they look like little chains of snowflakes. So the gel pens are really easy. I got these at Target. You can get them at Joann's, Hobby Lobby, wherever. I did not have supply chain problems with these. So this is something really easy that you can find in your local store or on Amazon or wherever you buy your stuff from. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for those of you that hung on through that whole big newspaper activity that I did. Should have done that one at the end. And I hope you guys try some of them on your own. And I hope they send Donna pictures or something like that, and we can
For
see
sure
what
on
everyone
that.
made. Yeah.
I really like those cardboard hearts for a lot of reasons, one of which is they're so energetic.
Mhm.
And I think they are great, very modern looking, and I think everybody can be an artist with them.
Yes.
And I do love the idea of cutting them out for the kids, and then the kids can go crazy with them.
Yeah.
Just adorable.
Yeah,
Little
I
red
think,
string in them.
and they were so easy. I mean, you thought I just threw this one together in, I don't know, 4 minutes or something like that. And like I said, you could just do a star template. Obviously, this leg right here got a little crazy. He's a little disjointed, but I think they still look fun, even if they're not perfect. So
I don't know. I think they look very Macy's.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Imagine like a whole Macy's window display that was all made out of cardboard. Wouldn't that be fun?
I had an idea.
Mhm.
You know how I am about styrofoam, because I'm
Yes.
always worried about the environment. Plus, it is not inexpensive.
Mhm.
So I was thinking about your denim tree. Now, maybe not for the denim seams, maybe just for little pieces of leftover Christmas fabric or something like
Mhm.
that. You could just get a template off of Google to make a cone out of
Mhm.
newspaper, a couple of
Yeah.
thicknesses,
Mhm.
and then stuff it with other newspaper, and you would have your cone underneath. And I think it would hold everything up. Just
I
an
think
idea.
it would too. I think you're right. Yeah, you could do because you could easily make a cone out of newspaper. That's fairly easy to do. You could do, what was the other idea that I had? You could probably make you could do them with like coat hangers and just do a wire base and then kind of wrap it with wider strips of fabric and then maybe do the seams over the top. That would be easy to do as well. I'm going to try to make a quick tree topper while we're chatting for my Christmas tree.
Well, I think did we have a question on here, Rachel? No? Okay,
No?
so we're just
Okay.
gonna watch Natalie make her tree topper now.
No, don't worry. I can do this on my own time as well.
The
But-
pressure's on.
Yeah, exactly. Now I bragged about not cutting myself. Now it's really down to the wire here. But I cut myself even if I'm just like, I don't know, peeling an apple. So it
Where
doesn't
did you
take
get
much.
your curved X-Acto knife?
You know, my husband is a model railroader person. So he's
Oh.
got every X-Acto blade. So when I said, can I have an X-Acto knife today? He said, well, what kind of blade do you want? I was like, a sharp one. So I'm sure that he got it at Hobby Lobby or wherever they sell them. But yeah, he just has a plethora of blades at all times. So look, got a little Christmas tree star for my thing, and I can put it on there with my.
That is perfect.
Yeah, it's a nice size. So I'll glue it on there with my little thing, my little glue gun. Get more glue gun on my hands. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. I hope everyone has a happy holiday. And then we'll see everybody for cooking. We haven't cooked in a while, so we'll see everybody for
Right.
cooking.
We'll be back in January for soups and stews.
Soups
So
and
thank you.
stews. And we'll
Yeah,
do a
thank-
combination of vegetarian and non-vegetarian for those. And some of the recipes we will give a suggestion for both. Like
Great.
an
I'm
adaptation
hungry
soup.
already.
All right. We'll talk
Okay,
to
well,
everybody
thank you.
later. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming to our programs and wishing you a joyful time for your holidays if we don't see you before that. And with that, we'll say good night.